So, this is my review of the Red Pill movie.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is an historic moment. Never before has there been a gathering of this magnitude to support men's and boys' issues. We have got serious problems. I have been working in this area, advocating for the rights of and here we go.
I think I'm actually going to give a little bit of background into what led me up to watching the Red Pill movie, which is about a feminist who basically doesn't call herself a feminist at the end of the movie, and she actually goes in and she interviews a lot of people who are called the men's rights activists, or MRAs. In the beginning, I called myself a feminist a long time ago. Then I kind of stopped calling myself a feminist. And I remember I was in a Facebook group, and somebody had made some kind of a comment about, if you're not a feminist, you're an anti-feminist, or something to that effect. And I said, well, actually, I'm a humanist. And, oh, this guy fucking flipped out. He and his friends fucking flipped out. They were calling me all sorts of names, calling me an MRA, and I was like, no, I'm not an MRA, but I am a humanist because I see that there are men's issues, and I say that there are women's issues, and I feel that feminism deals with feminist issues, and at the time, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it because there's issues that women need to deal with. But there was an obvious, and I saw it, difference. There was an obvious neglect of men's issues. So, in comes men's rights activists. So I always kind of was a little bit hesitant about men's rights activists because I listened to a lot of the chatter. There's a lot of chatter about groups out there. There's a lot of chatter. And I, for one, have learned to tune that chatter out and look at stuff and find out and make a judgment for myself. That chatter is just that. It's just chatter.
What you'll hear is that we hate women, that it's a backlash against women's rights. You'll hear that we're regressives that want women back in the kitchen and making sandwiches and barefoot and pregnant.
Misogynist rantings would be at home in the far-reaching internet subculture widely described as the men's rights movement, a toxic distillation of the worst aspects of American sexism. It's a universe of message boards like Reddit's The Red Pill, where men get together to express their hatred towards women.
You're just bitter, you're a loser, you're a whiner, you're ugly, you're undesirable, you're lazy, you're scary, you must be a racist, you must be a misogynist.
It's a gathering of women haters.
The Southern Poverty Law Center has classified that group and men's rights groups as hate groups.
And this is the way people who don't want men to talk about issues try to shut us up.
You will hear all sorts of things. They're MRAs or white supremacists. They're Nazis, they're misogynists, they're anti-women, they're this, that, all this other crap. The Patriarchy, which is part of the Illuminati, which supposedly runs the world, but nobody's ever seen them before. They don't have regular meetings, but apparently they run the world. There's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of propaganda. That's my opinion. I suggest people, if they're really interested in this stuff, to actually go out and find out for themselves what these various groups are about. I've seen videos on MRAs, especially a person named Big Red, who basically was yelling at some guy, telling her, listen to me, fuckface, it's not just for you, Mr. Entitled, man, and just the most shrill voice that you could ever think of comes out of this woman. And she's a disgusting human being. Absolutely disgusting human being. I mean, I've met some disgusting human beings in my life, but she's definitely up there. She's probably in the top 3 of disgusting people that I've seen on YouTube.
Because we've been focusing our binoculars on the issue of discrimination against women.
Most of the discrimination is faced by men. The fact of the matter is men are suffering.
Their wife wants to abort the child and they don't. What do you tell them?
I can't tell you at this point how many guys I've talked to who are like, yeah, you know, she stabbed me and they put me in jail.
I'll never forget this. He said, if she starts hitting you again, you better get out of there fast, because if she just breaks a fingernail trying to hit you, we'll arrest you.
Just say that he either raped you, sexually abused you, and we'll get you the house, you'll get the kids, and it's done quick.
All she needs to do is make the accusation, and that's on your record.
DNA should mean do not ask, because it's now illegal to even get a test, and if you get a test without the mother's permission, you will be criminally prosecuted.
It was a 15-year-old boy, it was a 35-year-old woman, and she was able to collect child support from this boy that she raped.
It's hideous.
False accusations, men's health issues, homelessness, the rates and statistics that we don't hear about.
93% of workplace fatalities are men. 4 of 5 suicides are men.
Men are conscious that our society doesn't want to hear their pain.
We value female life more than we value male life.
Because the U.S. government does not want to send you to die. They would rather send me to die.
All these forms of discrimination are happening in a society that doesn't even allow us to talk about them. We've talked about women's issues for 50 years openly in this culture.
I think I agree with everything you said, but there's still some kind of unsettling doubt, and I don't know where that's coming from.
With a person who directs the movie and also pretty much stars in it, claims to be a feminist, and then towards the end of the movie, she is no longer a feminist. And she's an actress who was kind of like in Hollywood, and she always played these little ditzy blonde roles that always had to be saved, and that was what kind of brought her into feminism. And so she kind of wanted to address a lot of those issues that she was dealing with through the feminist movement. And so she really identified with being a feminist, and I think that there's a lot of reasons that she justified for identifying with that. And as she's interviewing these MRE, she finds out that the stuff that people have been saying about MRAs is not true. She even goes to their website, she sees these things, and she's offended by it. And you really have to watch the whole movie from beginning to end, because the stuff that you see in the beginning, she actually answers at the end. So you really have to watch the whole movie to completely get an understanding of it. Because if you just watch the beginning, not the entire movie, you're going to miss the whole point of the movie. That's my opinion about that.
And then sometimes I think the MRAs are just duping me and giving such a strong pitch about what they believe in to convince me of something that's actually just some out there theory that men are discriminated against and women have the advantage. So I realized, okay, I need to bring some feminists into the mix to make sure that we have that side. Good. So it's kind of my journey learning about the men's movement, because I've been a feminist my entire life. The more I've gotten to know about the men's rights movement, the more confused I am about everything.
Feminist majority. Yes, women are still oppressed. Culturally, politically, socially, economically.
They call themselves MRAs, men's rights advocates.
I'm not sure what the goal is for MRAs, because it sounds like they feel out of power and they feel like their voice isn't being heard. And certainly if anybody can understand that, it's feminists.
White men are starting to feel misplaced because women are sharing space. I am a man, and I need feminism.
Is the men's rights movement really the gender version of the white nationalist movement?
I'm not against men having their rights, but, in the history of everything, men have always had rights.
So there's a lot of issues that men are unable to get addressed. So this was the other thing that I really picked out from this movie. This big red person, again, was talking about how if men have issues, they need to create groups and have meetings and start their own movement and get those issues addressed. She was also the one who led a protest at a school, I think it was in Toronto, where they were trying to have a discussion on men's rights issues, and they pulled a fire alarm and they weren't able to have their meeting about the men's rights issue. So she's saying that they should get together and have their own meetings about issues of men, but they don't allow them to have. And the reason why they don't want them to have meetings is because they believe that they're misogynists. They believe that they're rape apologists. They believe all these negative things about men. And when you watch the movie and you hear these people and you listen and you see and you understand exactly what they represent and what they mean, that's not what they're doing. That is not at all what they're doing. So I was really impressed by this movie. It really solidified a lot of my opinions that I have been formulating. And the other thing was this, again, this Illuminati patriarchy that supposedly exists in this world, which you hear about. Patriarchy, the wage gap. The patriarchy is part of the wage gap. The patriarchy this, the patriarchy that.
Is it possible that the things that they're railing against are actually patriarchal things?
We live in more of a patriarchy now than we ever did.
When it comes to equality under the law, when it comes to representation in the political halls of power, the business halls of power, men are advantaged over women, no question. No one can debate that.
No, it's this boogeyman. It's this unknown Illuminati behind the scenes, whatever it is, somehow manipulating whatever. It doesn't fucking exist. It's this bullshit term. It doesn't exist. But it talked about how it made men into the bad guy. It made them seem like they are it paints them in a bad light, like they have some kind of a male privilege. They're part of patriarchy, and this narrative is very destructive towards men. And I see parallels in this with supposed white privilege. And again, the negative effects of it. It's a very eye-opening movie, so I really recommend that people go and see it.
As I see it, the only real imbalance is in the belief system.
All I had to do, I had a simple choice. I could just say, yes, you're right. Men are the enemy. No problem. But I couldn't. I absolutely couldn't.
I think that the feminist movement is based on the idea that women have been victims, but not that men are the perpetrators.
Teach men not to rape. Only men can stop rape. Men commit domestic violence. We need to stop violence against women instead of just stopping violence. That is feminist training.
We all want to make a difference and ensure that this is a better world for the future women.
That's what we are here for, to say no more to violence in any forms, especially against women and girls.
We have a big hole in the area of compassion for boys and men.
Instead of debating us, they try to shut anything we do down.
We can't solve any of these problems if we're not allowed to even stand up and say they exist.
We just don't seem to respect each other for who we are. There's something sinister. There's some sinister aspect of our culture, something sick, something malignant, something horrifically destructive.
This is what men's rights look like. This is what men's rights look like.
I think it's inherently antagonistic, so the reason security guards are here, I think that's entirely warranted. Got all these death threats and rape threats, and I was terrified.
We are all organizing as a single voice, a loud voice.
It's time for us to quit apologizing for being for men's rights. It's time for us to quit apologizing for being men.
It's commonplace and it's everywhere, and the more you start to become conscious of it, the more you realize that it's there.
I don't lack sympathy for any of this.
The red pill is about looking at these issues in an honest way, even when it's uncomfortable. Are you going to put a disclaimer that no feminists were harmed in the making of this movie?
And then you could put in parentheses into that, we really don't care whether men were harmed or not.
So anyhow, this was a great movie. I really recommend seeing it. I think I rented it on YouTube rentals for like $4.99 or $5.99, and you get to watch it for 48 hours. And it's almost 2 hours long. I think it's like 1 hour, 57 minutes, but it is a really good movie. Whatever your opinion is of the men's rights activists, if you think that they are misogynist, men who live in their mother's basement and, can't get a date, so they hate women and they're rape apologists. If that's what you believe, I think you should go and see the movie. if you're already kind of aware, like, yes, there are men's issues that need to be addressed, this movie is going to be good for you too. So whatever your belief is, falls within the spectrum of this. I think that it is definitely a movie that you should definitely see. I think it's really definitely worth it, and it's also worth to get a discussion and dialogue going. I think a lot of these discussions and dialogues get shut down even before they begin, and I think it's not productive. That's very destructive. Dialogues need to happen, but in order to have a healthy and a realistic dialogue, these bullshit assumptions have to be set aside. They have to be cast aside. There's no way that you can talk to somebody assuming that they're a misogynist, rape apologist who hates women, and vice versa. So these assumptions have to come down first. So if you are one of these people who's running around peddling these assumptions without actually thinking about it, and finding out whether or not those are true, you're part of that problem. You're perpetuating it. And it's the same thing on the women's side. I understand how feminism is, what a lot of feminists believe, how they approach things, probably why they call themselves feminists, and I understand these things. I don't think that all feminists are running around hating men and they're all lesbians and, don't shave their armpits and, blame men for all the world's problems. I don't think that. So it's two ends, it's two sides of a coin, two ends of a scale, however you want to look at it. We have to find out that there's more in the middle than we are led to believe. And the people who are shouting in our ear on one end and shouting in our ear in the others, we need to shut them up. Don't listen to them, and let's find out what the actual middle ground is. Because we're going to have to find this middle ground. We're going to have to find out what is bullshit and what is true. And we can't do that unless we have an honest dialogue. Anyhow, thank you so much, and blessed be.